Hi, my name is Austin Farrell, and thank you for joining me for this series on Teaching with AI, Practical Guidance for Real Classrooms. In this recording, we're going to be discussing what is AI. So AI is a computer-trained tool. It's trained on large amounts of text, images, and audio, which allow it to recognize patterns and generate ideas, explanations, and videos. So you might ask, how is it trained? What does that really mean? So AI is trained by simply being shown huge amounts of data, being given huge amounts of data to process. So it could be, again, text, sentences, images, sounds. And as it processes this data, these examples and all of this stuff, it learns the patterns for like how language is structured, what images should look like. Simple stuff like when it sees a picture of a person, it sees the hat on its head, right? So it knows that if it's putting a hat somewhere, it normally goes on the head, right? So it's just kind of learning how these things are structured. Languages, sentences, images, audio. And when you ask it a question, the AI uses those learned patterns to predict the most helpful response, which could be an explanation or a step-by-step solution to something or a visual. So AI doesn't think like a human. It doesn't think like we do. It's actually just predicting answers based on what it has learned. So these tools run on like powerful, huge computers in data centers. So AI is not contained on your phone or your laptop or wherever you use it. So one of the things to actually consider when we talk about AI in the future and its usage is that because AI runs in these data centers, which are huge and require huge amounts of energy, not just for electricity, but primarily for cooling the electrical components that AI runs on. Because if those components get too hot, they can get damaged. So there's a lot of power draw to these AI data centers. And that does have a carbon footprint. It is a negative impact on the environment. So I just think it's important to put that out there, because as you think about your approach to AI and whether or not you want to use it, it's important to think about the impacts of you using AI and of you promoting the use of AI. For me, I believe AI to be such a powerful tool in what it's able to do that I still support its usage and want to promote its usage for the positive impacts it can have in the classroom when used well. But again, that's something that I have to accept, is that there are these impacts on the environment that I am also acknowledging and willfully choosing as I use AI. Obviously, I should support to the best of my ability ways to reduce the carbon footprint. But that is something that you should think through for your own ethic as you decide to or determine whether or not to use AI. So we know AI is a computer-trained tool. Another thing to understand is that AI, when we talk about it, we're primarily talking about chatbots. So a chatbot is a tool that answers your questions in a back and forth kind of conversational way. So you talk to it by typing, and it responds with explanations, examples, or resources, which again, it's generated through the patterns it has recognized. So chatbots use artificial intelligence to generate those explanations and suggestions and the ideas they provide. And the final thing I want to talk about is that AI is not new. So AI is all around us. We already use it. Google search, right? You type into Google search, you talk to it by typing a prompt into Google search, and Google search responds to you based on the data it's trained on, and even more specifically to you based on what it knows about your search history and you as a user, right? Alexa does a similar thing. Siri does a similar thing, except you verbally speak to those AI. Grammarly, you type into your computer and it can correct your grammar. It can offer suggestions and ideas, right, based on the models it's trained on and what it knows about your voice and what you're trying to communicate through your writing. And Netflix as well. I think Netflix is a great example of AI because it's not a chatbot like the other AI tools that we're really talking a lot about in education now, right? You don't type into Netflix necessarily and it provides explanations based on patterns that it's trained on. But Netflix is using AI to track your watch history, your watch patterns, and it offers suggestions to you when you log into Netflix. So you don't really have to ask a question, but the whole algorithm that provides you with new watch recommendations all comes from AI. So that's a general overview of what is AI. And I hope you join me for my next session in this series, which is on how can AI transform teaching.